Hey, what's happening, guys? Good morning, everybody. You guys have tuned into Rules for Rebels. Today is Wednesday, December 21st, 2022. We're just a couple days out from Christmas and just a little over a week away from the new year, from 2023. So we're going to be doing another one of these rundown stories today. We're going to be running through some business news, some stories about the economy, kind of trying to predict and kind of look forward to what 2023 is going to look like. And we got a lot of stuff to cover in today's video. Full disclosure here, I kind of goofed up my notes. There's this notepad website that I oftentimes kind of collect links to articles and links to stories and kind of make notes of things that I want to include in these videos. And I always seem to leave it on a different computer. I should just start doing this in like in an email document, so that it can just follow me around wherever I am. But so I only got about half of my notes from yesterday, so I think we're going to go through the notes that I have. Then we'll maybe take a quick look at Zero Hedge and a couple other news sites to see if there's anything I am forgetting about. Yeah, I guess that's what we're going to be doing in today's video. So I'm going to jump a little bit ahead. I think we have two stories which are kind of the biggest stories of the day. Number one is Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, is coming to the U.S. today. I think he may have already landed, and he's going to be addressing Congress. We're already giving Ukraine another $45 billion. I think we've already given them upwards of, if not over, $100 billion. One YouTube channel that I would encourage you guys all to check out, and I mention this in a lot of videos, so a lot of times I forget the name. Check out a YouTube channel called Will Zero AM. Will Zero AM, I want to say he's former Australian military. He's been doing a lot of reporting on the ground in Ukraine. He interviews a lot of Ukrainian soldiers and fighters. He also interviews a lot of foreign fighters, a lot of people from the U.S., Australia, the UK, who've gone over to Ukraine to fight. And it's just a very unbiased way of seeing what's going on. Obviously, the U.S. media gives you a certain narrative, which is rah rah Ukraine. I've talked about this from the beginning. Remember the Ghost of Kiev? Adam Kinzinger, a politician from Illinois, was tweeting a picture of Sam Hyde that somebody had photoshopped onto a fighter pilot, and he was like, "Go, Ghost of Kiev, get him!" And then it turned out that that was all propaganda. There is no Ghost of Kiev. That was a fake story. So I mean, that's kind of a lot of the news that you're getting out of Western media. So it's interesting to be able to see someone like Will O.A.M. He's supportive of Ukraine. He's supportive of the mission, but he also does not bury his head in the sand and kind of acknowledges that there's a ton of corruption over there. Soldiers who go over there to fight are being injured and are having to pay out of their own pockets or bribe people for medical supplies and medical care. People are being sent out into the field with no rifles, with malfunctioning rifles, with only 15 rounds of ammo. It's just kind of crazy. And most of the people you see over there fighting are saying that the war is not worth it. There's no purpose to this, and basically lives are being lost for nothing, but yet for some reason they're still supportive of being over there and plan on staying over there. But it's just a really interesting YouTube channel, so definitely recommend checking that one out. But we're trying to fight inflation, and you can't fight inflation when you're sending $45 billion around the world, right? Another big story was the Twitter files, and this kind of sort of ties into the Ukraine story that I just mentioned. So if you guys haven't been following the Twitter files, check them out. You don't have to do a deep dive. I know Meet Kevin has done some interesting videos about the Twitter files. I mean, it's absolutely, I don't care what side of the political aisle you're on, it's absolutely kind of disgusting what's gone on in Twitter over the years. Basically, Twitter, or the FBI had sent FBI employees to go work at Twitter and actually become Twitter employees. Some Twitter employees actually became FBI agents. The FBI paid over $3 million in taxpayer money for the privilege of having Twitter censor people for them. And what's really kind of interesting, you would think, the FBI shouldn't be politicized, period, right? Once the FBI has been politicized, it should just be disbanded. Ron Paul is actually calling on the FBI to be disbanded right now. Not that it's going to happen, but you would think that whoever is in power, the president in power, if anyone's going to have the power to have the FBI shut down political opposition and things like that, it would be the president in power. Well, it was actually when Trump was in power that the FBI was actually working on behalf of the Democrats. It's just kind of a crazy story that the FBI has basically like a backdoor panel to not only delete things from Twitter themselves and ban people from Twitter themselves, but also can call on Twitter employees to, hey, take this post down, hey, take that post down. We've also learned that the Department of Defense and the Pentagon have basically been using Twitter for propaganda. So they wanted you guys to support Ukraine, so that's kind of the direction that Twitter went. They wanted people to support Saudi Arabia in the bombings and war against Yemen. That's what was done. They wanted negative stories about Iran, so Twitter pushed a negative narrative about Iran and kind of censored any positive news about Iran. And when you think about it, Twitter is kind of the least important and the least used of all social media sites. So you figure if this was going on at Twitter, you have to imagine that this is also going on at Facebook, Instagram, Reddit, YouTube, etc. So I would encourage people to start using kind of decentralized or less censored social media platforms, search engines. For a search engine, you can use something like Presearch. You actually earn crypto for using it. It seems like more and more people are starting to move over to Rumble. Check out Rumble, BitChute, Brighteon, start using a lot of these other platforms. Yeah, they're not as great as YouTube. The search function isn't as good. You don't have as much content. But YouTube really needs some competition, as do all the major social media platforms. I think that was kind of most of the big news. Here's another story. Wells Fargo has been ordered to pay $3.7 billion by the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, the CFPB, for a variety of illegal activities, including wrongfully foreclosing on homes. So basically, people would pay their mortgage and Wells Fargo just wouldn't apply it to the mortgage and would then try to foreclose on their home. Same thing happened with auto loans, illegally repossessing vehicles, incorrectly assessing fees and interest, and charging unwarranted overdraft fees on people. Wells Fargo has a history of being a terrible bank. You remember a while back they were opening up accounts and auto loans in people's names to meet quoted numbers from corporate. If you have a Wells Fargo account, I would highly recommend shutting it down. Not that any of the banks are good, but Wells Fargo seems to be one of the bad actors. General Mills reports that sales fell 6% and prices are up 17%. So when people talk about, inflation's only 7% or 9%, General Mills cereal and other products up 17%, eggs up 40%, fresh vegetables up 37%, coffee up 16%, booze up like 22%. We all know that inflation is 2 to 3, maybe even 4 times what the Fed tells us. So I never really get when people argue with me and say that inflation's only 7%. Expect smaller tax returns. We talked about people are tapped out. Savings rates are at all-time lows. Debt levels are at all-time highs. A lot of people spend money over the holidays, spend money over Christmas, and really spend money throughout the entire year and then figure, I'll use my tax return to pay off the credit card debt at the end of the year. Well, you can expect your tax return to be about 20% smaller. I'm not going to go into the whole thing, but like the child tax credit is smaller. The child care tax credit is smaller. It now no longer applies to 17-year-olds. I believe it's 16 and below. And there's a lot of pandemic-era tax credits and things like that that are going away. Another story the other day, Ring doorbells are being used to swat people. And while we're on the topic of swatting, I don't know if you guys follow BitBoy Crypto, but BitBoy Crypto got swatted the other day. He's actually been down in the Bahamas kind of following the SBF saga. I don't know that I touched on that in the videos the other day, but SBF, I think it was on, Tuesday, was going to sign papers to be extradited, then he wasn't, then he was, then he wasn't. The Bahamian courts basically said he was wasting their time and playing games, but he has officially agreed to sign off and waive extradition. Now, ultimately, he was going to be extradited regardless, right? Like the U.S. has an extradition treaty with the Bahamas. He was going to be sent over. At that point, it was basically just kind of a bargaining chip. If he maybe made things easier in the U.S. government and made him jump through less hoops, maybe he gets a little bit more favorable treatment. If he doesn't snitch on people, if he doesn't help recover money, it's probably pretty likely that his parents will wind up being charged. I don't know if you guys follow Martin Shkreli, the farmer bro, but he's been doing a lot of videos kind of going through what type of sentence will SBF get. According to the sentencing guidelines, he very may well could get up to life in prison, though I think that's probably pretty unlikely. But if you want some kind of insights from a con man, from a scammer, about another con man or a scammer, the Martin Shkreli podcast / YouTube channel is kind of interesting. And I know we talked about General Mills numbers falling 6% and prices up 17%. I don't have the notes in front of me, but I remember from my notes yesterday that FedEx reported about $1 billion loss. They're trying to cut $1 billion in operating expenses. I believe the cost of shipping things through them is going to be 7 or 8% higher next year, which means essentially the cost of everything you buy, at least the shipping portion of that, is going to be going up 7 or 8%. And a few months back, or maybe it was last quarter when companies reported numbers, a lot of people were calling on FedEx's slump as kind of being a signal in a direction that the economy was going, or kind of a call that the recession had started, because, FedEx should be kind of an evergreen company. But if FedEx is shipping less stuff, that means people are transporting less stuff, people are buying less stuff, and the fact that FedEx is struggling is kind of a cue of what's to come for the rest of the economy. People have been kind of playing games. Are we going to head into a recession? Aren't we? I would argue that we're already in a recession. But at this point now, 70% of economists are calling for economists are calling for a 70% chance of a recession. I would say if we're not already in one, there's basically a 100% chance of a recession. There was a poll the other day done on whether Shopify should let the libs of TikTok stay, and I was kind of pleasantly surprised to see 71.8% of people said yes. Here's the thing. Shopify is a website builder. People are building their websites on Shopify. If somebody is selling something illegal like firearms or exploitative images of children or drugs, by all means, they should have their Shopify store shut down. But it's not really Shopify's place to make moral calls on, we're going to shut down this store because they sell T-shirts that we deem to be offensive. We're going to shut down that store because they sell T-shirts that promote a political message that we don't agree with. If Shopify is going to start shutting down stores, which they've already done in the past, but it seems like they're maybe reversing direction on a little bit. If Shopify is going to start shutting down stores, do you feel safe building your business on a platform that may shut down your business tomorrow? And yes, there are other platforms you could run to. You could go to BigCommerce, you could set up a WooCommerce WordPress website, but you always take a big hit in kind of the area of SEO when you move platforms, and it's a nightmare, especially the larger that your store is. 99% of Amazon sellers plan on selling on other platforms in 2023. This includes platforms like Google Shopping, Facebook, Walmart, etc. Here's an interesting SEO hack for you guys. If any of you guys are local SEOs or have a local brick and mortar business, part of what determines who ranks high in Google Places or Google Maps, I know they keep changing the name of it, but one of the things is how many people, click on your business, but also how many people use the navigation feature to drive to your business. So if you have a donut shop, if you have a restaurant, if you have a coffee shop, every morning when you go to work, look up your business, click directions, and I know you know how to get to your business. You go there every day, but use Google Maps to go to your business, and this will give you a huge bump in Google SEO. Google will probably eventually figure this out if more and more people start doing it, but I would start doing it now. The growth in rental costs, housing costs, rent costs are halting sharply. So I guess that's kind of a good thing. That's kind of what the Fed wants to see. But the cost of living is already out of control. Court rules that the Biden White House can't mandate vaccines for contract workers. That's good news. They say it would give the president too much power to require anything he wants of federal contractors. 2022 has been the worst year for Disney stock since 1974, and Bob Iger has been told to sell off ABC and ESPN. So you're seeing the downfall of Disney right in front of your eyes. Just a year ago, 2 years ago, people were talking like Disney's going to knock off Netflix. Disney might wind up acquiring Netflix in the future, and Disney has absolutely tanked. I'm not a big fan of Marvel movies and comic book movies. I'm not a big fan of woke content, and it seems like most people aren't either. People are voting with their wallets, and people don't necessarily like Disney pushing certain social agendas and messages and politics, and that's being reflected in their stock price. A lot of people are talking about potentially Apple buying Disney, which I think would be even worse for Disney. Let's see. A recent survey found that Americans can't take spending more than 4 hours with their family on holidays, yet Americans still say that it is important to spend time with family on the holidays. We've been talking about this in recent videos, just kind of, people report having less friends than ever. People are less connected to their families, less connected to their communities. I'm not sure whether it's smartphones or the internet or social media or just the divisiveness in society, but it's definitely not a good thing. Walmart is rolling out a text-to-shop feature. The movement to ban TikTok is growing. Both parties are on board. If you guys remember, Trump tried to do this a couple years ago, but it was ruled by a judge that he overstepped his economic powers. In other news, TikTok creators recently received their first payment from TikTok's ad-sharing platform, though it doesn't seem like the earnings were that impressive. Walmart has commented on inflation. They said dry groceries are the most stubborn inflation and the highest priced items. If you look at the price of a cereal, it's damn near $7, if not over $7 for a box of cereal now. Let's see. Most of Walmart's growth is coming from customers with incomes of $100,000 and more. And I had talked about that in some recent videos, right? Like, people are shopping down. People who previously may have shopped at Trader Joe's or Whole Foods or some higher end grocery store are now shopping at discount grocers like Aldi and Walmart. Let's see, Canadian tech job postings have dropped 32% since May. All sectors in Canada have slipped 9%. Uber Eats has partnered with a company called CartKen, a U.S. robotics company, and they're going to be delivering food with sidewalk robots. And so I'm guessing this is in more urban areas and densely populated cities. Amazon gives up the last of their pandemic gains. The stock is down over 50%, after the slump in 2022. Tesla stock has lost something like 65%. And I believe Elon Musk is looking for a new CEO of Twitter. The Tesla YouTube channel actually did a live stream the other night with Kathy Wood and a couple other people talking about finding a new CEO for Twitter, the future of crypto, and a whole lot of other things. I think you guys can probably check out the replay if you're interested in seeing that. Biden's press secretary claims that Biden's press secretary says, if you claim our borders are open, you are, quote unquote, with the smugglers. Even far left, liberal, very progressive mayors and governors from around the country, cities like El Paso, New York, Los Angeles, San Francisco, and the governor of California have all basically declared a state of emergency over the amount of immigrants swarming into their cities. They don't have the resources to take care of these people. Everybody's kind of realizing this whole sanctuary city, let's let everybody in. Even though it may sound nice, even though it may be a nice thing to do, it's just not feasible. In other news, I don't have my notes from this part of the story, but I believe Biden's press secretary, that Jean-Pierre, whatever her name is, she had said that Biden says that normal everyday Americans don't care about the border. It's only people on the far right that care about the border. You're getting a lot of mayors and governors on the left who seem to see a pretty big issue. Let's see. I think that's all my notes. Let's hop over to The Hedge and see if there's any other interesting stories that I'm missing here. Okay, so we got a story. Liberals who ditched Tesla and bought the Chevy Bolt now hit with recall over fire risk. And I saw something up. Here's a tweet. A guy by the name of Eric Sorensen said, so if you guys remember the other day, Elon Musk said it's not nice to try to force people to use your pronouns. A gentleman by the name of Eric Sorensen, not sure who he is, but he's got a blue check mark, so much for people not paying for the blue check mark, said, my pronouns are he and him. I believe in science and I support Dr. Fauci. Elon Musk's continued bad actions kept me from buying a Tesla, and now I'm ecstatic that I have a UAW-made Chevy Bolt in my driveway. And somebody had tweeted below him a picture of a car on fire and was like, hey, buddy, all Volts are being recalled. We got another story called Time to Get Out of Dodge, talking about getting out of the stock market. Biden to announce Patriot missiles for Ukraine as Zelensky arrives in D.C. Musk will resign as Twitter CEO after finding someone foolish enough to take the job. The ESG scores that the companies are getting are showing signs of fatigue. We're likely going to see ESG scores go away. This was interesting. Musk asked Representative Adam Schiff if he approved of the state-sponsored censorship that Twitter was doing and that likely other social media companies are doing as well. And rather than actually addressing the issue, which, again, regardless of what side of the aisle you're on, we don't want to live in this Soviet Russia 1984 society where the government uses propaganda on you and dictates what you can say. And Adam Schiff's response was, are you going to get some of the racism off of Twitter? Basically completely ignoring the question. 80% of Kiev is without power. the war in Ukraine is all but lost. I don't know why we're costing more young lives over this. It's just kind of silly. In a video the other day, I talked about how 85% of our pharmaceuticals are made overseas, China, India, a lot of other countries. It's kind of crazy. We need to bring that manufacturing back to the U.S. I kind of brought up what winds up happening if we get mad at India for buying oil from Russia, and then now they don't want to give us pharmaceuticals. We're just fucked. CVS and Walgreens limit sales of children's pain meds amid shortage. How crazy is that CVS and Walgreens are having to limit children's Tylenol and things like that? A couple weeks ago, we were hearing about how there's a shortage of ADD medicine. Be prepared, guys. Stock up. We just had an earthquake in California. I think there was another earthquake in Texas. We saw the power stations got shot out down in North Carolina. If the power went out, if the power goes out, the water filtration plant stops. So if you don't have clean, drinkable water coming out of your tap, like, how long could you really last? Do you have a couple cases of water lying around the house? Do you have cases of water in the garage? I know a lot of people seem to think that like preppers are kind of crazy or neurotic. But the sad thing is, I think most people don't have more food, don't have enough food or water to last even a couple of days. And when you see a lot of kind of the crazy stuff going on in the world, you don't have to be one of these people from that Preppers TV show where you turn your backyard swimming pool into a fish sanctuary so that you have food to eat. I mean, it's literally as simple. For $50, you could go out and buy a 25-pound bag of rice, 4 or 5 cases of water, and some canned vegetables. I mean, it really doesn't take a whole lot to be more prepared than 99% of people. El Paso mayor warns 20,000 illegal aliens waiting in Mexico to cross the border. Let's see. Cold exposure may inhibit cancer growth by hijacking glucose. We're starting to see more articles about these kidults, right? We talked about this in the video the other day. Toy companies are basically the main growth in people buying toys are adults buying toys, right? So basically like man-children. Okay, so this was an interesting story. The star of a body positivity show, I think it was called like Oversized Salon or something like that, 37-year-old woman, Jamie Lopez, dies of heart failure at 37 years old. She was 550 pounds. It's pretty clear that this whole body positivity movement is ridiculous, right? We don't want to shame people for their bodies. We don't want to call somebody a fat ass, but at the same time, the idea that a 550-pound person should just love themselves for who they are and shouldn't try to lose weight is a crazy idea. We talked about this. SBF has signed his extradition papers. I'm going to head over to one more news site. Okay, so winter solstice storm threatens major travel. And then it talks about a big Chicago blizzard. We're hearing all these stories about how like the storm of the century is sweeping across the country. And then I kind of looked at the weather. In Chicago, we're expecting 3 to 5 inches of snow. Now, granted, if it's 25 to 35 to below zero, yeah, it's pretty cold. If you have 50-mile-an-hour winds, even if it's just a couple inches of snow, yeah, the snow's blowing. It's kind of crazy. But I mean, back in I think it was 2018, we had an entire month. I think it was a month of January or February. The temperature never got above zero, and there was like a whole week straight where the temperature was minus 50. So the idea that like 3 to 5 inches of snow and minus 25 is like going to shut down the country is kind of crazy. It is kind of inconvenient that it's happening the week of Christmas. I almost feel like they're setting up a narrative for why less people are traveling, why less people are buying things. It's not because the economy is in shambles. It's because we're facing the blizzard of the century, even though it's only 2 to 5 inches of snow. In the UK, apparently the ambulance drivers or paramedics are striking. So the UK is warning people, don't play contact sports, don't get drunk, basically don't do things to put yourself at risk of needing an ambulance. Philly records 500 homicides for the second year in a row. El Paso being overtaken by illegal immigrants. Media Group shed $500 billion in value as shares head for historic drops. We talked the other day about how Vice Media missed the revenue targets by like $100 million. S&P 500 facing historical warning sign after this year's slump. Biden to send Patriot missiles to Ukraine. I saw, there's been a ton of talk about this Chat GPT, this kind of bot that will write things for you. I guess kids are starting to use it to cheat on their homework. So there's, teachers are going to have to try to figure out how to get to the bottom of this. And I think that's kind of all the news for today. Again, I apologize. I lost my notes, so I'm not kind of as organized and don't necessarily have all the stories that I wanted to cover. But I got a busy day today, and then I got to go have dinner with my parents later tonight. So I'm not going to have time to get another video out later. But if you guys enjoyed today's video, do me a favor, give it a thumbs up. If you're not subscribed to the channel, click that subscribe button down below and ring the bell. As always, thanks for watching, guys, and I will catch you on the next video.